let's get started. Hubert and Martin, the mic is yours. I've shared the mural for the link to the mural. I hope that was okay.
Yes.
And I'm here to assist, guys.
Okay. So Natasha told us that you're all quite comfortable with digital whiteboards. We've put today's exercises and all of the content ready for you on Mural. If you would just like to click on the link and log in as a visitor, then we will see you in Mural. I can see that goes all fine. Very quick question. Is everybody more or less comfortable with Mural? Yeah?
For me, it's the first time I use it, but should...
Lucas, have you used Miro? Have you used Miro before, maybe? Or...
Yes, I've used Miro. Yeah.
It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. It works the same.
Similar.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. Good. So I think we're all on. Is there anybody who has not been able to log in? No. Okay. Then let's start. We've introduced ourselves. We are going to have a very interesting session today about feedback. And before we actually dive into the content, to the book, to models, AI, we would like to do a very, very quick exercise with you. I'm going to summon you, and we are going to go to exercise 1, where we've put a 4-box graphic for you, and we're very, very interested to hear from you. Please use Post-its. The upside and the downside of giving feedback, and the upside and the downside of receiving feedback. Does everybody? Yeah, I already see notes. If everybody could, yeah, perfect. Good. So we're very, very interested in hearing from you. What are the downsides? What are the upsides for both giving and for receiving?
And you can just use small keywords.
Yeah, we will ask you a bit later to just explain a bit what your findings were. I already can see very interesting note about relieving frustrations, the upside of giving feedback. Yes?
And just out of curiosity, I would like to ask you one question. And there's been research on this, so I'll give you kind of the right answer later today. But what do you think is more stressful, giving feedback or receiving feedback?
Giving.
Yes, giving, yeah.
I would say that would depend on the role that I'm in. If I'm in like a management position, sometimes it can be more stressful giving that feedback because you want to encourage your people. You don't want them to feel like you're micromanaging them. You don't want them to feel like all my boss ever does is look at me and find the critical problems I've done.
Yeah.
So to me, it's tougher giving if I'm in a management position. It's a lot easier to receive. For me, it's a lot easier to receive if I'm in a management position because I'm like, okay, everybody has something to say, and I'm willing to grow that thicker skin and let all my team members come to me and say, no, I have a problem with the way you do this. So that's how it is for me.
Yeah, good reflections.
No. Okay, we'll reveal that a bit later. Ted, can I ask you to just give a short overview of how you what you put in the 4 boxes?
Yeah, sure. So kind of actually building off of what was just said, I think it's largely kind of around perspectives, where it's like, so you may appreciate hearing a different perspective isn't like an upside, to both actually giving and giving. But then on the flip side of that, it can be hard sometimes to hear that different perspective or to give that perspective that someone isn't aware of.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lucas, what are your thoughts around this?
In the upside, I don't know if it's properly expressed, but I put that it can really frustrations because you can be frustrated about a colleague's behavior or methods, and by just talking about it, you can understand maybe it was just a misunderstanding, or the other might improve the way he works, and that's that will loosen tensions and help not building it. Side about receiving it is that it helps you grow and become better with other qualities. And as for downside, it's just that it can be take a lot of energy and of work to think about how to give feedback, because you might be afraid of not saying it right and make the other person feel bad. For receiving, well, it's I think there is no real downside except that well, it can be hard, and if the person giving it doesn't want to help you grow, but is just negative, it can make you lose some self-confidence.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, Serena?
Yes, just a minute. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Yes.
I has no. So I think it's difficult to give sometimes the feedback to a person that is very close on himself. So it's not open to receive. So you have to be in a good situation to give the feedback. And it's not always, so it's getting better, okay, in the receiving. But sometimes if it's not what you expected, because perhaps you see behind in a prism that you think that it's okay and you realize that it's not okay, perhaps it can crush people too.
Yeah, true. One more, Matthew? One more reaction?
Yes. So for the downside for giving, I put that it can feel oppressive. I can feel sometimes that, all I'm doing is pointing out people's flaws. So feedback doesn't necessarily have to be negative, but I mean, usually that's when the feedback is happening because something happened that needs to be addressed. The upside for giving, I put addressing the issue, good and bad, saying, okay, well, let's bring this out so people don't have resentment if they feel like you're addressing their issues. So that's the upside. As far as receiving, for a downside, I put feeling vulnerable, because when your manager or somebody comes to you and they say, we need to talk, and you're like, oh no, this could go really bad. What's happening? And the upside is I put the understanding that the perception is that a problem exists. I've gotten feedback before where people have said to me, you sound condescending, or you're a bit abrupt when you speak to people. And I was shocked. That wasn't my intent. And I was like, oh, okay, now that I know, I can address this. I can. So I was excited to get that feedback, even though it wasn't positive feedback, because now I know, okay, here's something I need to work on, my delivery, because that's not my intent. And I want people the reason we're talking to people is to have mutual understanding. And if you're not delivering that in a way that they can hear, or a way that they find off-putting, you need to figure out a better way to make that delivery. So I'm excited to get feedback, negative or positive.
Good. Thank you, Matthew. Martin, what's harder, receiving a feedback or giving feedback when you look at the research?
I think that this is so interesting because before I watched or went through the research, I had the same thoughts that you guys had, that giving feedback is the most stressful part. But actually what they find is that they're equal. There are about 50-50 amount of stress in both giving and receiving feedback. So I thought that was really interesting because we will also touch upon this later today, but when we're talking about feedback, we almost always talk about giving feedback.
Yeah.
But also to receive feedback can be quite hard and quite stressful. And that's also a skill to manage.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when we do this exercise with people, very, very similar answers. The downside of giving often is described as people are a bit afraid of damaging the relationship with the person they give feedback to. People might find you too harsh or too judgmental, especially when they're might be wrong. Power differences obviously play a role here as well. Then the person will act defensively, and there might be consequences to that. The upside are fairly obvious. Obviously, there's an improvement. You want to help people. And on the receiving side, as Martin already said, is again this relationship. People are afraid that because they might have done something wrong, their image or the relationship with the person who gives them feedback is somehow damaged. And just the fact that you have done something wrong, or you might have failed, can already lead to defensive mechanisms. And as you know, defensive mechanisms can also find their way back into anger and trying to defend yourself and shooting back and trying to derail the discussion. So although there are many very good points about feedback, and everybody is always very much looking for feedback and talking about feedback, we also know that it brings along with it some very difficult emotions on both the giving and the receiving side. So going then back to how we started, about 10 years ago, we wrote a book, the first book about feedback, to basically address this issue of how can we get the best out of feedback and keep the defensiveness and the negative emotions at bay, and basically help teams build trust, speed up learning, speed up improvements, team engagement, using this form of communication. Yeah, and I would now say it's probably one of the most difficult forms of the communication. We had the book, we built up services around individual feedback coaching, often to leaders, and we did a lot of team workshops and leadership workshops to basically unblock the communication channels and have information flow freely through these channels. Then beside that, we did some culture consulting in how companies can already build in a culture of feedback from the start. So what you can do more on a corporate level. What lay at the basis of this was what we call the clear and calm model, or the clear and calm feedback.
I don't think that you're
framework.
you're moving the screen now in Mural.
Let me just do. Can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So here you actually see our clear and calm model. And the clear and calm model is basically 5 steps for giving and 4 steps for receiving. So that model already started with a notion that we have to learn how to give, but we also need to learn how to receive feedback. On the first level, it's usually around, you need to be clear about what you want to say. So what is going on and why that is important. And on the calm side is just to be able to be calm enough to actually listen to that. So let me take an example. Martin has been late a couple of times the last week. He comes late into meetings. That means that the meetings start too late. The whole team needs to work, and then that works in through the whole day because we end up coming later and later to other meetings. So now I need to give Martin feedback And on the very highest level, clear and calm, I basically need to explain to Martin that he's been coming too late, be as precise as possible when that was, and then say, this is very important because the whole team is waiting for you. And Martin needs to remain calm. Yeah, so these are the clear and calm at its most simple form. However, if you want to become a bit more sophisticated and a bit more advanced, we have made these steps you can go through, which we then train teams to do. Specifically train teams who are in an international setting or are from different functions. Because they're being sensitive to different emotions, to different habits, to different cultures is extremely important. So how would that work? Well, I would say on the constructive phase, so on the C phase, I would be very, very clear, and I would be very prepared to talk to Martin in a way where I said, okay, this and this has happened, these and these dates, you were 4 or 5 minutes too late. Then I would explain him the impact on this, and I would very much focus on the language I use to describe this. So use positive language, stay away from certain words like always or typical.
You are.
Yeah, use very direct action-focused statements, use the relevant facts. Then I would go to the evaluate phase. This is basically where I open up the dialogue. This is where I invite Martin in to tell me what's going on, what has happened. Yeah, and at that point, it's very important for Martin to be in a calm state where we can actually start that dialogue about the feedback I'm giving. Once you're in a dialogue, you go to the action phase. You actually start to have a brainstorm with Martin on how you can improve the situation. Yeah, so you involve the receiver. And then the last point, and sometimes we forget that, you have to somehow re-establish or reset the relationship a bit. Yeah. So I'm a co-worker of Martin. I'm very fond of Martin. If I don't re-establish that relationship, could think about the feedback for many, many weeks and think that somehow that has damaged our relationship. So by saying, look, Martin, thank you for listening. Looking forward, to having a dinner tonight, or looking forward to doing the presentation together with you tomorrow. Somehow Martin gets an indication that we're still okay. Yeah. On the calm side, it comprises of a C, which is around consider. So if Martin can put himself into my position and know that it's not so easy to actually give feedback, that has a calming effect. If he also has the potential to look inside himself and know himself well enough to know that when he feels that he is given feedback, he gets a bit excited or he gets a bit defensive, and he can find 1 or 2 seconds to regulate those emotions, he's able to listen and go to the next step. And then he can go into the dialogue with me, and he can actually manage the conversation as well, because many times I haven't been as clear as I should be, but Martin can ask for more details to fully understand what's going on. Now, so we always call it like a dance between clear and between calm. It goes up and it goes down, but it remains a respectful and productive dialogue. And this is basically what we've been working with in the last 10 years, to work with teams, to work with leaders, to make sure that they can use this as a common language and as a common approach to giving and receiving feedback. Any questions around that before we move on?
Yes, Matthew.
I was going to ask you, you touched on it a little bit, Hybert, when you were giving the example with Martin. You were late by 5 minutes on these dates, kinds of a thing. But I was wondering, does it help, or does it sound like you're a robot kind of if you have those data points to back up? Do you want to have specific, on this date, you were late by 3 minutes, and this was the meeting we were having, and it was impact? I mean, do you want to have those kinds of data points, or do you want to go more with a feeling-based? Because feelings can be messy, but data is not, data is facts. So
yeah. No, and it's a very good point, Matthew. My experience is that it does sound a bit ticky-mickeys, but it's better to have data.
Hybert, I don't know what that means, ticky-mickeys.
Well, sorry, it sounds a bit overly rational and,
okay,
and structural and orderly. that I come here and say, look, 4 minutes for 4 minutes, 4 minutes. But
Sure.
I found that it is, although it's a bit awkward, it works better than being vague around some of these issues.
Yeah. And that's also my experience. When we're going into a conversation like this, that can be hard, that can become a discussion instead of a feedback. It's very important to be concise and to be clear and to be also detail oriented. Because if Hubert comes to me and he says, Martin, you're always late, I will find one answer in my mind where I wasn't late, and then we're off to a bad start. So if he says to me, Martin, the last couple of weeks you have been late, it's on these dates, bang, 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 then it's not a discussion anymore. Then it's concrete feedback.
Yeah, I found, me personally, I found it very useful to not use absolutes like always and never.
Yeah.
And, you want to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't want to use those you are or you always.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I get your point. But as Martin said, it prevents people, if they get defensive, to start going into what do you mean by this, or when. If you already have those, then they're already standard. Then they can still come back to you and say, oh, so now I'm the problem while I've been working overtime the last couple of weeks. Now that's a derailer, right? Now you're trying to derail this discussion into another feedback discussion, and you have to get people back again. But starting with the facts and the fact that you've been taking the trouble to actually record it also underlines how important this is for you when you go to the impact part of the feedback.
Yeah, the place where it can get kind of hard is where it's something that is not that detailed. So, for instance, if I have a conversation with one of my employees that I feel that are lacking motivation, I can't go in and say, okay, you're not motivated. I've sensed it or I've seen it these 3 times. Then you have to be kind of doing it a little bit another way. And what we found is that if you then talk about what I feel, so, but I sense that you are lacking motivation these days. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Then you don't kind of put the tag on him.
And now it's you. Yeah. It's interesting because Natasha, we were discussing with Natasha a bit how you even use the word feedback, right? How you lead into certain feedback in the language part. Many times, for example, the way I use it is the story I'm making up. Yeah. So you've been late a couple of times these and these days. The story I'm making up is this and this and this. So you're actually moving away from the feedback word, which sometimes has a positive or negative connotation, and you very much say, this is what I feel, or this is what I am making up, and then you invite the other person into the discussion.
Yeah, I just need to double click on that because feedback is kind of a negative loaded word. So if you start a conversation that I want to give you feedback, then you see the stress levels go sky high. So to find some other words can be really helpful.
Well, for those who've been in the Agile team coaching class, maybe you'll remember the discussion we had about how feedback directly creates a drop in the feeling of status in your brain.
Yeah.
How it is directly linked to, oof, I am less worthy than I thought I actually was. And it's very irrational. It's our need for social validation that creates that. So the moment you say, hey, you did a great job, but I have a couple of pointers to share with you. We're happy to have the feedback, but our brain says, oh my God, how do I get out of here? So stress just goes up. There's nothing we can do about it. So we have to deliver it in a way that it becomes inviting information.
Yeah. And even if we do everything right, and even if we're very, very good at giving, some people are more sensitive to other people. If the stress levels goes up, your thinking capabilities go down, your emotions take over. So it's something we will talk about a bit later as well. But even if you practice this, it will always be a challenging topic, and that's why we say it's probably one of the hardest forms of communication.
Yeah, and I see that time flies, so we need to.
Yeah. Okay. So let me very, very quickly tell you where we are. We, as a little company, we started focusing on feedback, but then we branched out. When you work with teams, as you can imagine, you do yourself. Teams asked us to get more into strategy because it was also linked to the feedback. What we did is we took on many more things which fall under team dynamics and team strategy. And we felt ourselves floating away from the way we started off, which is our core purpose around feedback. And now, about 8 to 9 years later, we're actually going back to our core and basically reviewing everything we've done. And we've been dramatically trying to upgrade the way we deal with feedback, take all of the learnings we had from feedback, and put that into our new book. Martin?
Yeah, can you take control of the mural so we all
Yeah.
are on the same path?
Yeah, let me
Perfect. Thank you. So, like we already talked about, we needed to go back to the basics. So we needed to go, or we wanted to go back to our purpose, that is making feedback flow better and helping people with feedback, because we think we we see ourselves as kind of the feedback plumbers. So we think that if feedback flows, all of the other things will kind of fall into place because of that. Going into feedback first and making it 2.0, you see this model that we have here that is surrounded by leadership and artificial intelligence, and I'll come back to that. But I want to start on how to build resilience in feedback, because like we already talked about, there's high amounts of stress on both giving and receiving feedback. And we see as kind of the gold standards of feedback is to regularly ask for it. So making it kind of a habit to ask for feedback in kind of every situation that you are, because it's so much positive that you get out of it. It's like going to the gym. The more you go there, the easier it gets. The more you kind of your muscles holding that feedback also improves, and of course you can get better. So by asking feedback, it's get easier and easier to receive it, and then you can also develop as a person. So that's one of the things that we are now focusing more on in feedback first 2.0. But we also see that in the first book that we made, and kind of the first program that we had, was when we started now, we went back to the old materials that we or the book that we made in 2016, and then we went into all of the research that has come out after 2016. So we took every science paper that we could find that had good peer reviews, and we went into Harvard Business Review, and then we kind of saw or checked if does the theory that we had, does it hold a high enough standard. And as you see in the model, you have a plus on the word changeability, and you also see that on point 2. So one of the things that we now included into the book is the thing that is happening after you received feedback. So I guess that every one of us has experienced this, but if you go into or if you give or feedback and there's nothing happening afterwards, you get kind of disappointed and you stop giving feedback. You think that it's not worth it because it demands something of you, right? To give that feedback. So we now included the changeability, and the essence in the changeability, how people actually change, is to make the steps small enough. I heard a saying that I kind of like, and that is lower your standards, in sense of lower your standards to make your goals and your change development small enough so you can kind of build momentum and build small wins, so that actually you can withstand that change. But also, like all of you know, there's been a big change in the world since 2016. Maybe the biggest disruptions that is ever happened to humankind. And that is artificial intelligence. And that kind of changes everything. We try to include and use and learn as much as possible around artificial intelligence. We also use it to prepare and practice for feedback. And we're going to take you into a little exercise very soon on how to use AI in training for feedback. But first of all, you see in the center of our model that you have skills. The skills are the clear and calm that you just saw that Hoybert went through. So all of the awareness and things like that, things that you can train. And also, if you want feedback to work, you need to have trust. You need to have psychological safety. So that's also a big part of our model and our book. And then you have the changeability. So that kind of makes up the Feedback First 2.0. Shall we try to do an AI exercise?
Yeah. Okay, so you see in this model that artificial intelligence and leadership are the ones who go around. They basically reinforce this sum of elements. And just to start the AI part, we would like you to actually put a note or a yellow sticker with your name or without your name on where you think today you sit when it comes to using artificial intelligence. So 0.0 is AI free. I don't use AI for anything. Level 1 is I use it for general productivity, for finding new information, for making a summary, for sending out an email. That should actually be level 2. I actually use level 2, which is the orange, which is I actually explore more. Yeah? So I'm not only producing results, pushing them out, I'm using it to explore. Then the next level is learning. This is where you actually use AI to learn, to memorize, to build new levels of knowledge. And then the highest level, I actually use it as co-intelligence. So I actually use it to build services, to give services that I could never, ever do alone, or that AI could never do alone. So we're just very interested to understand where you think you sit today. And these levels, they blend into each other. This is nothing scientific. It's something we use. But we're just very interested, before we ask you to do the exercise, on where you think you you sit in terms of how you use artificial intelligence? Okay, Veronica. So there. Natasha, where do you see yourself?
Mostly in the exploration and productivity.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. We'll come back. We'll come back to that later. It's just very useful for us to see as well. We'll when we wrap up, we'll come back to that. We're in a very small group, so I don't think it's necessary that we actually break up into different sections. We've got a very, very simple exercise for you. Basically, we would like your ideas. As Martin already said, we are now using artificial intelligence to prepare, practice, and review feedback. And we would like you to think about how you could actually do that. Yeah. So if you could just put your post-its in the prepare, in the practice, in the review on how you think we can use AI to prepare, practice, and review feedback and teaching people feedback, teaching teams feedback. And then we can show you a bit later how we actually do it.
And that's exercise 2, using artificial intelligence, is just to the left of the pyramid.
Yeah, it's exercise. Yes, exactly. Very good. I assume many of you are already using feedback in your daily work or in your practice as coaches. Yeah. So basically, the way we use it today is that we have a chat GPT, which we use with our clients as well, where basically you can find our old book in the chat GPT. So it's learned the book, it's learned the model. We've updated it with steps for giving feedback. We've updated it with steps for breaking down big intention into small intention. So basically, our whole knowledge base has been learned by AI, and we can then give that to our clients, and our clients can actually use that to practice and prepare their feedback using what we've already been talking about. Now, the nice thing about this is that they then, for example, in the prepare phase, as you already said, can start to write a script. Let's say I have to give feedback to Natasha. I will tell the ChatGPT what Natasha is like. So I can already start to prime the AI that, Natasha is a bit sensitive. Actually, we did an MBTI thing together. She has a typical MBTI thing. So I can actually have the AI help me tailor my feedback, so my clear, exactly to what Natasha will respond to. Yeah, you can even say she's Dutch. I know the Dutch dimensions for giving feedback. Put it also in there. So the likelihood of me landing that feedback is much bigger. Yeah, if you know you're going to receive feedback, you can actually do the same. I'm going to receive it from Natasha. She's very Dutch. She's going to be very direct. She's going to use humor. Yeah, I'm going to make sure that I'm in a mindset where I can actually take this in. So there's a tailorization you can use with AI, which would be very hard to do before. If you move to the practicing, you already put role plays in there. We do a lot of role plays. Yeah. So once you've told AI what Natasha is going to be like, I can actually ask it to play Natasha. And I could actually ask it to review then how I did. Did I go through the clear and calm steps? Where did I miss it? Where is Natasha likely to react because I didn't say it the way I should say? Yeah. So I'm now using a lot of different data to make that discussion, even before I go into it, a much more tailored and prepared discussion. And then once I've had the discussion with Natasha, and I've had more of them, I could even say, look, now this is the 5th time. Let's look at all of those discussions together. Yeah, most of these things are now recorded. You have the transcript. Let's look at bigger trends. where do Natasha and I go wrong? Yeah, where does it derail? So we get a level of extra data, we get a level of extra help, we get a level of extra coaching, which makes the human coaching much more effective. Yeah, so that's how we use it today. Martin?
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, after ChatGPT included the voice part in their model, this has also been much easier to do, because it is one thing to kind of write it and to have that script on the screen. It's something completely else to actually have to say it and to get the response from the GPT as well. So personally, for me, that helps a lot. And I use this also in my coaching. I record, of course, with the consent of all of my coachees, but I record the coaching conversations. I have actually MBTI profiles on many of them. I have Big Five profiles on some of them, and I've asked also to include that into the ChatGPT. And so I get also feedback on my coaching and how I perform. So it's tailor-made, but it's also something that you can kind of develop and train. And then, of course, you just to emphasize on that, you need to have that consent and need to turn off that GPT is sharing that content also with others. So that's important.
Yeah. Now, just before we close this section, Martin and I are very clear around this, right? We believe in coaching, which has a human part and it has a technical part, high tech, high touch. We also know that the amount of AI coaches which are now entering into the market is quite high, or even agile coaching is getting into. Yeah, there will be a definite movement towards this type of coaching. We believe that truly higher level added value coaching will always be a combination between what we do as humans and what we do with technology. Yeah, so we build the trust with our clients, but we see AI as a way of boosting our services and being there when we can't be there, right? You can go in there 24/7, and then at the end of the week, you should discuss, okay, what happened? So it's a very good coaching assistant, which is always there when they need it.
Yeah, it's the typical 1 + 1 = 3.
Okay, we're coming to the end. We've given you a lot of information in the last hour. We've gone very, very fast. We're very, very interested in your feedback. So I'm just going to ask you right now, from everything you've heard, where we're going, what is your impression? Because this is the first time we actually give a group a bit of a view inside the kitchen where we're still cooking. We're not serving to the general public yet.
Yeah.
Anybody? Matthew?
I'm interested to see how AI can play into this, because I've more recently started leaning on it. Well, I'll write an email and then run it through AI, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's good," But I think the AI still struggles a little bit with tone, because you can say, "Okay, make this more assertive, make this more confident, make this more persuasive," and when I read how it modifies those things, I'm like, "Oh, that's not persuasive. That's aggressive. That's that's kind of rude to say it that way." So I think your point of how it's going to be a combination between the actual human element and the AI element, I think that's going to be the case, at least for the foreseeable future, until they improve their AI model. I agree with you. Yeah.
And what I found out, because I totally agree with you, but what I found is that the more I use it and kind of the more feedback I give to AI, the more it aligns with my tone.
Well, it learns.
Yeah, it learns.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other very quick feedback? We will ask you for a bit deeper feedback.
I'm just really curious, like curiosity stays high, like around, okay, what does your business model now look like, etc. Like when your entire book is basically now within this thing, how do you hold that as proprietary, and so on? It's like, so that's where I remain very curious. Like, I applaud you for changing and trying, but it's like, wow, this is interesting.
It is, and we are mind-blowing, days we wake up to think like, how does it work? But the sad reality is that even if we would try to keep our book out of AI, anybody who has a bit of capacity to turn a Kindle book into a PDF and learn and put it into AI, it's already gone. So we don't see that as a sustainable competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm.
We are really trying to think about how can we build a business where you get the best of humans with the highest support from AI, and how can we build that into a business? Because knowledge by itself, I don't think that's going to keep us with a job.
And I think that's the key, right? Because the world as we used to know it was that knowledge was power. But now knowledge is in the hands of everyone. And with all of the knowledge is in the hands of everyone. So the cost or the price of knowledge is now zero. It's everyone has it. So we think that our kind of business model surrounds about what kind of service can we give and how can we spread quality content and make people open their minds and to see new perspective around feedback. And we think that that's kind of the way to go in the future.
Okay. Just to keep on time, 1 more minute to go. We are on LinkedIn. We will leave this mural open for you to go later. You can click on the LinkedIn page. We also have our own website. Anything you are interested in, please sign up on our website. We will, for example, send you a PDF of our old book. You can ask us questions. You will find our emails there. We believe that good feedback is possible if you have a good structure, if you have good process, if you train it. We believe that AI can boost our capacity to come better at it. And whatever job you're in, we really urge you as well to start your own AI journey and move up that pyramid, because we do believe that if you look at the pyramid, the lowest levels will be eaten up very, very quickly by AI. Yeah, it will literally go up. And I think the higher you get, the better your brain works, the better you work with AI, the more value you can give to our client.
So just to summarize that, follow us on LinkedIn and sign up for the newsletter, and we'll send you the PDF so we have the book, and you'll also get access to the mural table, where you can also find the ChatGPT clear and calm model.
You can actually use it, you can test it, you can see how it could work for you. It's fully loaded up, and as you said, Ted, we're not hiding anything. We don't believe that's where our value will come from. We'd rather share it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing, guys. It's lovely. I learned a lot. Geez, it's been a day full of learning for me. Hopping.
Good. Pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for spending time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you for ending my day in a good way.
Serena, that makes us happy.
Started good and it's good. You forget the rest of the shitty stuff.
Yeah, it began good and it ended good because it was with you.
There you go. Lovely.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Ted.
Okay.